Hello everyone! We are the group for St. Paul, and today we are gonna talk about quadratic equation and its methods, and also about the topic trigonometry. So let's begin!
Welcome to the video. Today, we are gonna talk about solving quadratic equations by extracting the square root, or simply using the square root formula. But what is a quadratic equation? In algebra, a quadratic equation, from the Latin quadratus for square, is any equation that can be rearranged in standard form, where x represents an unknown and a, b, and c represent known numbers, where a is not equal to 0. I also mentioned the term standard form. Now this is how you turn a simple quadratic equation into its standard form.
It actually involves transposing.
Example, 2x squared is equal to negative 8x. It will be like this: 2x squared, then transpose the negative 8x to the other side, it will be positive, so plus 8x. Then since we don't have a representation of letter C of our standard form, we will be using 0, so plus 0, then equals 0. So letter A is 2, letter B is 8, and letter C is 0. Now this is it. Solving quadratic equations by extracting square roots or by using the square root formula. The main rule of this topic is that if x squared is equal to a and a is greater than 0, then x is equal to the square root of a, or x is equal to the negative square root of a. It is actually common to indicate the positive and negative solutions by writing this, read as plus or minus the square root of a. For example, if x squared is equal to 25, then x is equal to the plus or minus the square root of 25, or plus or minus 5. The square root principle is useful in solving quadratic equations of the form x squared is equal to c, when c is not a perfect square and c is real. Now, I will be showing the steps on how to solve a quadratic equation by extracting the square roots by this example. Example, 2x squared minus 50 is equal to 0. Step 1. Isolate the square term. So, we need to isolate or leave 2x squared behind, then do the transposing method. Therefore, transpose the negative 50 to the other side, it will become positive 50. Now, we actually need to get rid of the coefficient, so divide 2 by both sides. 2x squared divided by 2 is x squared, and 50 divided by 2 is 25. Now, it will come up as x squared equals 25. Step 2. Apply the square root property. So now, the square root of x squared is equal to the plus or minus the square root of 25. Step 3. Solve as usual. Then be sure to include the plus or minus sign and simplify the radical. So, the square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 25 is 5. Thus, the final answer would be x is equal to the plus or minus 5. Then the two solutions are positive 5 and negative 5. Additional example, x squared is equal to 49. You could use the square root principle easily, so apply it. It will become x is equal to the plus or minus the square root of 49. Then simplify the radical. The square root of 49 is 7, so the final answer would be x is equal to the plus or minus 7. Now, there are actually a lot of kinds of examples, a lot of quadratic equations to be solved using this principle. The reason why I taught you basic ones, basic information, basic examples, so that you will know the techniques and steps involved in this topic. Then you will further explore ways to solve a quadratic equation, then succeed to a hard example or problem. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for viewing and listening to this video. Bye and have a good day.
For today, I'm about to explain the sample problem that is given to me. Wow, magic! So guys, this is the sample problem. Find the base of a triangle with an area of 8 square meters if the altitude of the triangle is 6 meters less than the base. These are the given. Area of the triangle 8 square meters. Altitude of a triangle b minus 6. Find the base of a triangle. So after getting the given value, I'm about to introduce to you the triangle. This is the illustration of a triangle. So now, we're about to put the given value of the triangle. So this is the illustration of a triangle where A is the area. So guys, this is the illustration of the triangle where A is the area of the triangle and 6 meters. Balik. So this is the illustration of a triangle where the area of the triangle is 8 meters and the altitude of the triangle is 6 meters less than the base. And the unknown is the base of the triangle. So now, we're about to look for the unknown, which is the base of the triangle. So the formula of a triangle is area equals 1/2 times base times height. Let B equals base. To solve the given problem, now let's substitute the given value to the given equation, which is A equals 1/2, open parenthesis, B times H, which is base times height, close parenthesis, A equals 8 meter. A equals 8 meters, H equals B minus 6 meters. 8 equals 1/2, open parenthesis, B times B minus 6, close parenthesis. So now, we need to separate the given value. 8 equals 1/2 equal... Mag-open parenthesis B, so now we separated the two given. Balik ko tanan. B times B minus 6. So now, we need to factor out 8 equals 1/2. B times B equals B squared. B times negative 6 equals negative 6B. So now, we're gonna multiply 1/2 from B squared minus 6B. And the resulting equation is B squared minus 6B all over 2. So the next step is to find the common denominator, which is 8 and B squared. So the next step is to find the common denominator of 8 equals B squared minus 6B all over 2, which is 2. 2 divide 1 equals 8 times 2. 2 divide 2 equals B squared minus 6B. 8 times 2 equals 16. 16 equals B squared minus 6B. So now, we need to transpose 16 there so that we can get 0. So now, B squared equals 6B minus 16 equals 0. Solve the quadratic equation for B to find the answer. B squared minus 6B minus 16 equals 0. So now, we need to factor out the... So now, we need to factor out the quadratic equation, which is B minus 8 and B plus 2 equals 0. Set each factor to 0 and solve for B. So, B minus 8 equals 0. And the answer is B equals 8. And the other one is B plus 2 equals 0. And the answer is B equals negative 2. B equals negative 2 is rejected because there is a negative sign. It is rejected because In a triangle, there is no presence of a negative base. So the answer is B equals 8. So now, we found the unknown, which is 8. I conclude that factoring is harder than multiplying because it's not as mechanical. Many times, it involves guesses or trial and error.
Hello everyone, I am Christine Rivera, and for today's video, I will be teaching you on how to solve quadratic equation using quadratic formula. So first, let us know about the topic. Does anybody of you have an idea? Quadratic formula is a formula that provides solution to a quadratic equation. It is also called equation of degree 2. Quadratic name itself comes from quad, which means square, because a variable gets squared. A, B, and C here are taken from the quadratic equation written its general form of ax squared, where a is the numerical form that goes in front of x squared, b is the numerical that goes in front of x, and c is the numerical with no variable next to it, which is called constant. Below here, we have our quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Did you know, when using quadratic formula, you should be aware of these three possibilities. These three possibilities are distinguished by part of a formula called discriminant. So now we are done discussing the topic. Let's proceed to this problem. When the length of each side of square is increased by 7 in, its area is increased by 189 inch squared. Find the length of the side of the original square. So as you can see, we have now our given here in this illustration. So here, our first step is to expand the expression. So that will be x squared plus 14x minus 140 is equal to 0. Then we subtract 49 minus 189, so it will be x squared plus 14x minus 140 is equal to 0. We have now our quadratic equation, so let us use the quadratic formula. So first step, let us identify our variables, the a, b, and c. So our a here is x. In this case, x is understood as 1. Then our b here is 14, and our c here is negative 140. X is equal to negative b, which our b here is 14. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared, which our b squared here is 14 squared, minus 4, a here is 1, and our c here is 140. So negative 140 all over 2 times 1. Now let's multiply 14 times 14, that will be 196, and we'll multiply 4 times negative 140, that will be 560. So after, we will add 196 plus 560, that will become 756. In the next step, we will simplify the radical expression. So after, we will simplify and write with the solution with a 1 plus sign and 1 with a minus sign. So it will become x is equal to negative 14 plus 6 square root of 21 all over 2. That's for x of 1. And for our x of 2 here, we have x is equal to negative 14 minus 6 square root of 21 all over 2. Then after, we simplify each of them. So for x of 1 here, we have x is equal to negative 7 plus 3 square root of 21. So for our x of 2 here, we have x is equal to negative 7 minus 3 square root of 21. So for this problem, x is equal to negative 7 plus 3 square root of 21, and x is equal to negative 7 minus 3 square root of 21 is the length of the side of the original square. That's all for this topic. Let's proceed to the next lesson.
Hi, my name is Jisimir Tuya and I will be discussing completing the squares. So, completing the square is a method used to solve a quadratic equation by changing the form of the equation so that the left side is a perfect square trinomial. So before solving completing the square, we need to know the steps. So, step 1 is if a is non-equal to 1, divide the quadratic by a. Step 2, we need to isolate x squared term and x term to the left side of the equation and move the constant term to the right side of the equation. Then step 3, add the half of b to the both sides of the equation. Then step 4, factor the perfect square trinomial on the left side and simplify the right side of the equation. And the step 5, use the square root property. Take the square root of both sides and solve for x. So we have an example. X squared minus 5x plus 6 is equals to 0. The first step, we need to subtract 6 from both sides of the equation, then complete the square by adding 25 over 4 on the both sides. Then factor the left side and add in the right side. Then apply the square root principle. So, the 1 over 4 is being applied by square root principle. Then, add 5 over 2 to both sides of the equation. Then, simplify the radical. So, there are two possible cases. So, first, let us solve for x equals 5 over 2, then plus 1 over 2, then it is equals to 6 over 2. Then, divide 6 by 2, so it will be 3. Then, 5 minus 1 is equals to 4 and divide it by 2. So, it is equals to 2. So, therefore, the solutions are 3 and 2. So, now let's proceed to the next example. So, the example would be a problem solving. Then, we will find the equation from the problem and solve it by completing the square. So, the sum of the two numbers is 15. Then, the sum of their squares is 9 more than 13 times the larger number. So, we need to find the numbers. To find the numbers, we need to solve the equation. Let's solve for x squared plus 15 minus x squared equals 13x plus 9. So, we need to multiply 15 by 15 to get 225. Then, combine x squared plus x squared to get 2x squared. Then, subtract 225 to 9 to get to negative 216. And then, divide both sides by 2. Then, put 43 over 4 to both sides of the equation. Then, square negative 43 over 4 by squaring both numerator and denominator. To get 1849, we need to square by the power of 2, then add negative 108 to 1849 over 16. Then factor x squared and negative 43 over 4 and x as positive 1849 over 16. Take the square root of the both sides of the equation and simplify, then separate the equation into two possible cases. In negative side, we have 8, and then in positive, we have 27 over 2. So therefore, the numbers are 8 and 27 over 2. That's all for this topic. Now let's proceed to the next one. Hi, my name is Karil Jean Calvo, and I would be talking about the topic trigonometry. So what is trigonometry? Trigonometry is a branch of mathematics that studies relationships between the sides and angles of triangles. The word trigonometry is a 16th century Latin derivative from the Greek words for triangle trigonon and measure metron. Trigonometry helps us find angles and distances. It is also used a lot in science, engineering, video games, and more. Later on, Sean Wong would be explaining more about the SOHCAHTOA. Now, let us proceed to the difference of the angle of elevation and angle of depression. So, angle of elevation is the angle between the line of sight and the horizontal when a person looks at something above his or her location. While angle of depression is the angle between the line of sight and the horizontal when a person looks at something below his or her location. So now, let's have this example. In this example, we have to find the height of the tower. So we already have the given 80 degrees and the given 53 meters. In this slide, it is shown if this side of the triangle is the hypotenuse, the opposite, or the adjacent. We're gonna try to solve this example. So first, we have the formula tan degrees is equal to opposite over adjacent. Next, we're gonna have to substitute. So let's say tan 80 degrees is equal to x over 53. Now, since the x is on the upper part of the fraction, we're gonna have to multiply the equation. We're gonna have to place the x on the left side while the remaining numbers are on the right side. On the right side, the first thing that we're going to place is our adjacent, which is the 53. Next is the tan 80 degrees. When we start multiplying this equation, we're gonna come up with the answer 300.58 meters. Therefore, our final answer for this example is the height of the tower is 300.58 meters. So now that we're done solving that example, let's try to apply trigonometry in real life by solving this problem. An observer, standing on top of a vertical, spots a house in the adjacent valley at an angle of depression of 12 degrees. The cliff is 60 meters tall. How far is the house from the base of the cliff? So again, we have the formula tan degrees is equal to opposite over adjacent. So let's try to substitute. So it would be tan 12 degrees is equal to 60 over x, since our adjacent side is the missing side. Now, since the x is on the bottom part of the fraction, we're gonna have to divide the equation. On the left side, we need to bring down tan 12 degrees with x on the numerator while placing tan 12 degrees itself on the denominator. While on the right side, we're gonna need to bring down 60 on the numerator and place the same thing on the denominator just like what we did on the left side. Once we cross this equation, the only ones remaining is x is equal to 60 over tan 12 degrees. Then, when we divide it, we're gonna come up with the answer 282.28 meters. Therefore, our final answer for this problem is the house is 282.28 meters from the base of the cliff. This is the end of the first part of this lesson. Now let's move on to the second part.
Hi, my name is Sean Wong, and I'm going to be talking about the second part of the topic trigonometry. Trigonometry is a branch of mathematics that emerged during the 3rd century BC from applications of geometry to astronomical studies. It studies relationships between side lengths and angles of triangles, and it is found all over geometry, as every straight-sided shape may be broken into as a collection of triangles. Next, here we have SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA stands for sine opposite over hypotenuse, cosine adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent opposite over adjacent. The sine is used to find the adjacent, and cosine is used to find the opposite. And lastly, tangent is used to find the hypotenuse. Here we have a problem. The problem states how far are you from the tower. In order to find how far you are from the tower, we're going to be dividing the height of the tower from the angle of elevation. So we're going to let x become 100 degrees, and we're going to be dividing that by 100 meters. And the answer for that is going to be 567.13 meters. Here we have another problem. This problem says you are standing 15 feet away from a tree, and you measure the angle of elevation to be 35 degrees. How tall is the tree? So the formula that we're going to be using for this problem is a tangent formula. So we're going to let x become 35, and we're going to divide that by 15 degrees, or 15 feet. So it's going to be 15 tan 35 degrees. And the answer for that is 10.50 feet. We have now reached the end of this lesson. I hope you learned something, and thank you for listening.
This is the end of this video. I hope you learned a lot from this tutorial. Please don't forget to leave a like down below, and thank you so much for watching. Again, this is the group for St. Paul, now signing off.